Alright guys, so in today's video I'm going to show you a couple of minutes of a rare interview done by Bob Lazar. I think this was in 91 or 92, so someone kind of just snuck in and got a camera in there and was able to film this. I don't think he really wanted it possibly filmed, but we don't know. But he answered some pretty good questions in this interview, so I'm going to try to, it's a pretty long interview, so I'm not going to play the whole interview, but I am going to show you guys some of the more interesting questions I think that some of us have asked or either want to ask and get answered. So let me go ahead and quit my yapping and let's get a couple of these clips playing.
I'm interested in a little bit more about the physics of the power generation from the development of the antimatter to the gravity A wave and the amplification and that process of the generation of that and being able to fold space. Can you repeat the question, please?
That's a pretty lengthy explanation.
In other words, the relationship between the development of antimatter and the gravitational force field.
Well, I can give you, I guess, a brief overview of essentially how that works. If you want an in-depth description of that, you can give me your address and I can send you a paper on it. Essentially, what the reactor does is provide electrical power and the base gravity wave to amplify, and it does that by interacting matter and antimatter, essentially. The way it does that is injecting an accelerated proton into a piece of 115 that spontaneously generates antihydrogen, essentially. That's reacted in a small area. It's a compressed gas, probably a compressed atmospheric gas, and the antimatter reacting with matter produces the energy, mainly heat energy, and that is converted into electrical energy by a thermionic generator that appeared to be 100% efficient, which is a difficult concept to believe anyway. Also, the reactor has two functions. That's one of them. The other function is it provides the basic gravity wave that's amplified, and that appears at the upper sphere of the amplifier itself, and that's tapped off with a waveguide similar to microwaves, and is amplified and focused, essentially.
So how is the electrical energy related to the amplification of the gravitational A wave energy?
The electrical energy is transmitted essentially without wires, and I related it to almost a Tesla setup. It seemed like each subcomponent on the craft was attuned to the frequency that the reactor was operating at. So essentially the amplifiers themselves receive the electrical energy like a Tesla coil transmits power to a fluorescent tube. What was the rest of the question?
Yeah, in other words, what is the relationship between, I think you basically answered it.
Yeah, that's how the amplifiers receive the power through the waveguide to receive the basic wave. It's very, very similar to a microwave amplifier. And, for more technical description, I can send you drawings or things along those lines, but that's basically how it works.
What is Dr. Keller's relationship to S4? Do you think he might be working on antimatter weaponry?
I don't know, but he was certainly, I forgot what his exact title was. He was chief consultant or something along those lines. And as far as antimatter weaponry, I don't think anyone was involved in that. There was certainly some beam weapon work, and Teller's been involved with that. I think his last project at Livermore, Los Alamos was, I think he called it Super Excalibur, and that was essentially a nuclear bomb detonated in orbit and fiber optic light guides that directed X-rays to incoming warheads, and that's his pet project. He loves that thing, so I don't think he jumped to antimatter weapons. All the way in the back there.
On your sports tunnel that you worked on, what do you think was on level 3, and where were the bathrooms?
I don't know if anything was on level, well, I don't know if there were any bathrooms. On level 3, I can only guess, and I would imagine that there was some sort of navigational equipment or their version of a computer or something along those lines, because I saw nothing else that controlled the the amplifiers, the directions they pointed at.
Bob, how do you foresee that mankind can develop this type of machine?
I really don't. Without access to certain materials. Or maybe new manufacturing techniques that can produce those, but until those problems are solved, you know, the fact that we even know how to deal with it or even duplicate it, you know, it's pretty useless.
How many other materials might be necessary besides 115 that you know of that were contained on the ship?
That might be it. The rest of it might be just essentially polishing up manufacturing techniques, making things smaller, you know, just general increase in technology, getting a small accelerator running at a higher energy level. I don't know about the metallurgy aspect of the craft. I don't think any exotic metals are necessary, though they may be employed. I imagine you could make a craft out of aluminum if necessary, but what part that plays, I don't know.
Now this next question is pretty interesting because was curious about the shape of these crafts, but I've read it before, but it's actually good to hear someone who's actually worked on these to give an answer for it and why they're actually the shape that they are.
Is there any significance to the saucer shape, the geometry, having to do with any resonance or anything of that nature?
Not any resonance, but it's important most of the edges on the craft are rounded because a high voltage field does appear at most of the craft except for the last upper bump. There's a little ring before that. Now I'm only talking about one craft, so I don't know about the rest, but there's a small ring before that, a darker black one, and that's an insulator ring, and that's the only place above that upper section, the third level, is where high voltage does not appear.
Now this next question was pretty interesting because we always are curious about other inventors that have tried to create something, whether it try to be anti-gravity or a disc-shaped craft or whatever it is, and why they're not actually out there and they have patent pennies and stuff for it. So it's pretty interesting and pretty funny. You can hear the guy kind of giving a long explanation to a question that he wants answered, and Bob just pretty much answers. But like I said, it's always good to hear it come from someone than for us to just hear he say or she say on the streets.
Are you familiar with, I have a couple aspects of the question. Are you familiar with Howard Menger's electrocraft and Otis Carr's saucer design, and how are their devices, how do they generate their gravity fields and compared with what you described? And lastly, can you speculate how why the commercialization of some of these crafts hasn't been possible with so many different patents applied for these kinds of design crafts?
Because they don't work.
Alright, so last question, at least for today, as I finish breaking down this interview. Someone actually asked him about the monuments on Mars and based on Mars and based on the moon and stuff. And like I said, it's really good to actually hear this from someone. Now, his answer is kind of iffy. I'm 50-50 with the way he answered it, but it's good to at least hear something else out there than as some people say, some experts saying, oh, it's there, but they don't really show any proof. But anyway, here's going to be this last question for this.
I want to know what you think of the monuments in Mars, and do you think we have bases also?
Do I think we have bases? No. The monuments of Mars are interesting. That's about the most I can say. They're suspicious, and I really don't know until there's more information. I've seen pictures of them and things along those lines, but the most recent Mars probe is taking low altitude photographs of those, so I guess everyone will know in about a year.
Alright guys, so there you go for a couple quick questions on it. If you want to see more of this, you want me to break down a little bit more of this, let me know. If you guys have not followed me on Rumble, I am on Rumble as well, and you guys can see more information on there, and also follow me on Instagram too. But if you want to see more of this here on YouTube, I'll finish trying to break down the video because he does talk about several other aspects too that I think you guys may be interested in. But if you are, put down the comments, and then I'll go ahead and try to finish breaking this down and then posting some stuff out there. So as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. Thanks for watching.